Good morning, my Teaserking family. How is everybody on this Saturday? Hope all is well. I did a little, well, I cooked last night. Got to go to the grocery store later. So we're gonna clean up some crap here left by this cowboy Bob Orton and these other guys, and we'll talk Super Bowl. Let's talk Super Bowl first, then we'll get into it. So let's look at the line. And we've got KC 1.5. Let's refresh. KC 1.5 and 48.5 or 49, depending over or under. And that's really been the same. Both teams we know are A teams, 18 defenses. So it should be a pretty good game. We got Hurts against Mahomes, huge edge Mahomes, Barkley against Hunt, big edge Barkley. What would you rather have a big edge in, the quarterback or the running back? It's a good question because they each give, if you're winning, you want the running back. If you're behind or even, you want the quarterback. Mahomes, he just wins. The only guys that beat him are Brady and Burrow. And Brady beat him twice. Burrow beat him once. Beat him twice, but there was a very bad call in the game on the late hit on Mahomes as he's just stepping out of bounds. They don't look at the whole impetus. In other words, it's like running a red light, but it's a terrible rainstorm, and it just turns like yellow as you're going through the intersection. Well, look at the whole, I didn't want to slam on my brakes. There was somebody behind me. It's pouring out. Look at the whole situation. It's the same thing here. Mahomes is going, and then at the last step, he steps out of bounds. And if the guy doesn't come, he stays in bounds. And then as soon as he hits the out of bounds, the guy hit him and you push him in the back to push him out of bounds because the guy doesn't know he's going to step out of bounds. He see him running, and they give the penalty, and it's such a bullshit penalty. The refs are probably the worst that I've ever seen in my life. They don't know what they're doing. They don't understand. You don't impact the game. Don't know what that is. You don't impact the game with your lousy calls. There's a time you let the game go, and you see the play, and you go, "Well, he just took the last step out because he knew the guy was about to hit him to induce the flag. He didn't really hit him out of bounds. It's not like the guy was 2 steps out of bounds and then you hit him. He just ran down and then he just stepped out, and you're giving in to the bullshit, right? It's cheating basically. So the refs shouldn't be calling that. They called it last week against Barkley where he's running down and then he puts a step on it and the guy tackles him because he's running down the sideline. So I'm going to assume he's going to keep running. Then he takes a quick step out. Was an idiot also saying, "Oh, well, that's okay. It's okay if he does that because, he was out of bounds." So I hate when the announcers, there's really no free speech, right? They're told to back up what the referees say. "Hey, Pat, how are you?" So it's a really terrible ordeal we have in football. The announcers are not. They're extremely biased, and they just agree with the referees. Well, the players aren't agreeing with them, and you're a player. You used to be a player. What are you agreeing with it? So it's a real shit thing. The Bank of England is out of gold, so we're gonna change the goal for 5 seconds. Well, let me ask you this, Pat. Supposedly they ship 400 tons of gold to the U.S. Is it because A, they needed the money, so they sold the gold for the money because they're broke? England's broke. Two, is that the U.S. needed the gold because their derivatives, they owe all this gold for people asking for the gold for the delivery on the COMEX, and they don't have any gold to deliver. The only problem is you're fucking with China and Russia, which you can't do. Or three, the U.S. wants to go on the gold standard and they need gold because we don't have any in our Fort Knox, and therefore we need gold, and therefore I don't know what 400 tons is going to do, but that's it. So let's extrapolate. I think it's all three. I think Trump understands gold, and I think he knows he can't pay the debt off. That's why he's trying to do tariffs to use that to pay the debt off. That will not work. I don't know who's advising him. Obviously a Keynesian, which is why we're going to talk Keynesian Austrian, because that Bill Halter doesn't understand it. I pointed that out last night, how Bill Halter is like a freaking idiot. And, he's pulling it from my videos, but he won't ask me to explain it to him. It's pretty funny. But the Keynesians just say keep printing money, and they don't understand the value goes down. Well, we'll talk about that. Everybody wants their bars, but I didn't think the UK had any bars, right? I thought they had sold all their gold to India, and they really didn't have any gold. So I don't know whose gold they sold. It might have been the ETF's gold or something. I don't know, because the ETF has very little gold because they don't pay it out. They price their ETF to the gold, but they reset it every day. It's a Ponzi scheme. ETFs are just ridiculous. I tried it once, and gold went up like $80. I go, oh, I must have made a lot, and I made nothing. And I was like, what the fuck am I in an ETF for? And then I went into physical gold. So basically, we have a currency crisis now. Yes, exactly. Perhaps BlackRock or JP Morgan moved their gold. They don't have any gold. JP Morgan sells their gold to China. They don't even have, it's not even theirs. They take delivery and then give it to China. That's why there's no gold in Fort Knox. I'm not sure BlackRock owns any gold. Fink's not smart enough to have gold. He's daddling around in Bitcoin. I don't think they have gold. Maybe a Goldman Sachs. These are all the bullion banks. And it would make sense that their Ponzi schemes based on keeping the price down so they can buy it. And now they can't hold the price down anymore. And now the price is going up. I was watching a video yesterday where China and Russia are really pissed because they have all the wheat and the corn and all the commodities and the gold, and they don't have control over the pricing. And they're pissed about it, and they're going to get control over the pricing. So I think that's a big part of what's about to happen is the pricing will go Russian and Chinese. There's a Russian, a Moscow diamond and precious metal exchange. There's a Shanghai, and then there's, I guess, one in Dubai. So there'll be 3 different places that'll price it. And what's happening now is people are buying gold from COMEX now it's 28, and they're selling it in China for 29. It's an arbitrage deal. Now, I don't know who's stupid enough to do that. You're still in fiat money. What are you going to do with it? This is why when there's a little bit of down derivatives in the COMEX, nobody is profit taking, and nobody's consolidating. Nobody is this stupid. If you're buying gold, you are not this stupid to sell your gold and get back into fiat. That's my Titanic explanation. You're getting off the Titanic because it's sinking, so you get into the lifeboat, in this case, gold. Why would you get off the lifeboat and go back into the Titanic and watch it sink? Get back on it. It doesn't make sense. So why would you sell your gold? Why would you arbitrage it for $100 and then what? So it doesn't make sense. So the currencies could be dead by the end of the month. The currencies are already dead. Hence why the BRICS countries are buying gold, and hence why everybody wants to join BRICS. It's just you don't know it, right? It's like somebody has an illness and you're going to die in 3 months. You're dead, but you got 3 months to live, and then you're dead, but you know you're dead. And it's the same thing here. All the currencies are worthless since 1971 because they haven't been backed by anything. And this is the Ponzi scheme that's been going on. They'll just keep printing money and artificially make the economy look better than it is. And the way the story they tell you about the economy, well, the CPI is this and the GDP is that, and none of it means anything. We'll fix the price indexes. We won't count things that have gone up. We'll just count things like Coca-Cola, where it jumped to $2.95 a bottle, and then it stayed at $2.95 a bottle. We won't count that. So it's already dead. That's why I'm adamant about buying the gold and silver now. You don't have much time to wait. Okay, my guy will still take dollars for gold, and I kind of don't understand it, but okay. I said to him, my biggest fear is you won't take my dollars anymore for the gold. And he says, no, I don't see that happening for a while. And I'm like, good, I can buy more. The real key is going to be getting paid. What are we going to get paid in? Useless dollars. And so as long as I can be Rumpelstiltskin and go to the bank on Friday and get my direct deposit and pull it out and then go buy gold and silver with it, I'm okay with it. But when I can't, I'm not going to be okay getting paid in monopoly money. And I just think that's we both know we're already dead, right? We know it's been printed to zero, so that's where we're at. So basically, we have perhaps BlackRock or JP Morgan move their gold if they have any, but I think it all goes to China and Russia. So are you saying their gold was in London? Why wouldn't they keep it in Fort Knox or at Egon's place in Switzerland? Why would you move it here? Where is it? In the New York Fed or Fort Knox? I mean, I don't know. So the currencies could be dead by the end of the month. Yes. I think I reread your thing. Okay. Yeah, I mean, if it is BlackRock and JP Morgan and they had 400 ounces, okay, that could be it. But we did. I was very happy. We saw 28.15 yesterday in gold. It ended about 2,800. I was surprised to see a late derivative because I was under the impression from the other video we watched 2 days ago that they basically were done shorting it. They had to get out of all their short positions and pay it off. Hi, David. Hello. Welcome. Please feel free. Questions, comments. So we cover a lot. We cover Austrian economics, and we cover football, of course. So I'll get back to football in a minute. But when like Pat jumps in, he's a gold guy. He wants to talk. I'll talk to him, and then I'll get back to football. So whatever. So basically, the gold's the only thing that can survive. It's the only lifeboat because you can't print it. And that's what, so getting the 400 tons from England, and now England's out. England's bankrupt, right? London, England, the UK is bankrupt. And so is the rest of Europe. Germany, they can't produce. They can't sell their cars. Their labor's too high. China is flooding the market, but with electric cars. Nobody gives a fuck about electric cars. You want real cars. Now, maybe in Europe, the gas prices are so high, and that could be the difference. If they really raise the gas prices, I could see in Europe, as they're all going bankrupt, they would go, oh, I can buy this electric car and I save on gas prices. But the electric prices will go up and their utilities are very high. So maybe it works in Europe. The cities are close. They have public transportation, so you can just get on the little trams or buses or subways. We don't have that here. So maybe that's what's going on in those countries. Because when I go there, I never rent a car. I just simply get on this. I usually take not lifts, but whatchamacallit, Uber. I usually Uber around or take taxis depending on where I'm at. So I don't really rent a car, and it's hard. Some of the signs aren't in English; they're in Italian or French or something. But that's what's happening with Europe. So Germany can't sell their Mercedes, their BMWs, their Audis. That's what Germany is. It's a manufacturing country, and they have the high-end cars, but they're not. Their labor is very high. So this is kind of weird because I don't know that people care about electric cars. Nobody cares about it here, but maybe a little more in Europe. So that's what they're doing. But they're collapsing. Italy's collapsing. France is collapsing. Hungary, Romania, Poland, all these countries, and we know the Ukraine's collapsed. So all these countries are collapsed. The BRICS countries are the ones buying the gold, and that because they know this is happening. So, I'm thinking we're going to run all the way up to 3,000 now because I don't see who's shorting it. The shorters have got to get out. They don't have gold. So we'll see about this 400 tons. So 400 tons came from England to the U.S. Now, whose was it? I doubt it's the government. I doubt it, and maybe we're going on the gold standard, but you need a lot more than 400 tons. We don't have anything in Fort Knox. We've already sold it to the Chinese, and you're not getting it back. Even if we leased it to the Chinese, you're not getting it back. So that's what's happening there. All right, back to football, and we'll go back to economics. So again, Kansas City 1.5, 48.5, 49. I see it being a game in the 20s. I don't think either team's going to get 40s. Well, KC, even the Buffalo game was 32-29. So it shows you that Philadelphia's got enough offense. They should be able to get in the 20s. And we know KC will have enough offense. The Rams put up 20 on Philly. And then Washington still put up 23 on Philly, even though they got 50. Pat, 11 times above average volume of gold exported from Switzerland to the U.S. for December. Well, Trump didn't get office till January, but he knew he was getting in office. Where's Switzerland getting their gold? People give gold to Switzerland to create the coins. So they give the rough, and then Switzerland's the one place that makes everything, the bars and the stuff. So, okay, so maybe the U.S. is planning on the gold standard. And I don't know what Trump's faking with Bitcoin, pretending we're going on Bitcoin. We are not going on Bitcoin. Bitcoin is not a government thing. That'd be like us going on Mahomes cards. The government doesn't own Mahomes cards. I do. So you can't take my card. You're going to have to pay for it, which you don't have the money for. So Bitcoin is private, right? So it's people, well, it's mostly Michael Saylor and Larry Fink who keep buying it, raising the price. What a Ponzi scheme that is. So I don't know if Trump's sitting there going, what he's thinking. Well, we're going to sell our gold for Bitcoin. It's the dumbest thing you could do. Gold-backed treasuries is the second dumbest thing you can do because it's still an IOU. So people will buy the treasuries after let's say it's 2-year treasuries. You're going to have to pay them back. You don't have the money. So if I have gold, why don't I just raise the gold price to 20,000 and pay off my debt? Trump's smart enough to know he's got to pay the debt off. He's gone bankrupt several times himself, owning these buildings. So with what Pat's saying, he's seeing what's going on. It's still, the dollar is still worthless because you can't keep printing it. There is a cause and an effect, like going forward on fourth down. There is a cause and effect. If you make it, there's really no reward. And if you miss, the penalty is severe because you probably lose the game because you give up emotion and field position or you didn't score. So if you do it at the opponent's 20, you're the dumbest coach in the world. You kick your field goal. You've had 3 tries to get 10 yards. Okay, maybe 4th and an inch, maybe you go for it, but 4th and 2, if you're going for it, you should be fired because you don't understand anything. You get your points, so you don't, because if they stop you, you lose momentum. And then they take over at the 20. You got no benefit out of it. Your risk was momentum and you didn't score. Your reward is nothing. So let's say you're at the 22-yard line and it's 4th and 2 at your opponent's 22 and you go for it and you don't make it. You didn't score. You gave up momentum. But let's take a look at if you did make it. Okay, you got the first down. It's 1st and 10 at the 20. What's your reward? Nothing. You still have the ball at the 20. You still need points. It gives you more tries to score, but you just needed a 4th down at the 22 to get it. So what is the reward of going for it? There isn't any. Keeping the ball away from them, that's not a good excuse. So it makes no sense. That tells you how bad the coach is. That's why I get after the Lions coach. They keep going for it on 4th down and shouldn't, right? They don't have the quarterback to do it. And basically it's a stupid play. The field goal is the play because you need the points and you don't want to give up momentum. Now, if you don't have a good defense, now you're really fucked going in anyway, which was the Lions' problem the last 2 years. And so they were kind of forced because their defense was so bad, but that's a real bad thing. You need the points in that case. But that's the point. So here, with gold, the dollar's worthless, right? Everybody's printed it because they're going with the Keynesian model. It says government spending will keep the economy going. Only there's a little asterisk that says, but you can't print the money to death doing it. But nobody reads it. So that's the problem. The reward is nothing. You keep your economy going. That's fake because the money's worthless. And now your debt's even bigger and the money's worth even less. And people buy gold off of you, and that's the problem. So that's really where you're at when you print the money. You gain nothing, right? You pay your bills with fake money, and basically that's it. So you pay your bills, the money's worth even less, and then what happens? Now I need, okay, the money's not worth anything. Who are you paying with this fake money? Right. And Social Security, Medicare, and all that. So you're getting paid in phony baloney money. Like I say, that's why I'm Rumpelstiltskin. Whenever I get this crap, it's to the bank. It's pay my bills in it because they're still stupid enough to take this, and then it's off to the gold and silver store where they're still stupid enough to take it for their gold and silver. I would not sell an ounce of my gold or silver at all in this unless it was for something that I immediately was going to pay. So if there's a bill comes up and I need the money, I might sell an ounce of gold to get the money to pay the bill. Otherwise, I'm not selling my gold like for profit taking. Well, I bought it at 1,700. It's 2,800. I've made 1,100 an ounce. That's a good investment. Now I'm going to cash out. No, because I can't cash out. What am I going to cash out into? Oh, monopoly money. So if I cash out, I get this. Nobody's selling their gold. The derivatives are keeping it. It's all paper. Anyway, let's get back to football. So how do I break the game down? I don't think either team really falls behind big. I don't think KC beats them 32-0. And I don't think Philly can beat KC 32-0. Mahomes is too good. As I was talking yesterday, controlling the game. So he's going to get the ball. He's going to get first down. Even if Jalen Carter goes after him, The way Tampa beat them is they did blitz them a lot. So I think Philly will do that. Buffalo really doesn't have the defense to bother KC. And Houston had a decent defense and held KC. What was that score? KC beats Houston 23-14. So I think we're looking at a game in the 20s. So if it goes to 51-52, I would go under. Right now at 48, I would go over. And I would take the dog because I think Philly's defense and Barkley will keep them in the game. I don't think they can totally stop Barkley. He'll get his 100 yards. But Barkley will score touchdowns for you in the red zone, in the 10-yard line area specifically. You need to run. You can't do it. But KC understands that, and they give the ball to Hunt or Pacheco, or Mahomes does a little running, or they have these little crossing pattern pick plays that never get called for touchdowns. So I think both teams will score in the red zone with their running attacks. I was watching a game. I was watching the 49er Dallas game, the catch game, 1981. And here's Bill Walsh. You got Joe Montana. They have the ball at the 5-yard line going in. And what do? They run it 3 straight times. Boom, touchdown. He didn't try throwing. He had Joe Montana. The catch was actually at about the 15 or the 12-yard line. It was like 3rd and 3 or something like that. And it was a brilliant play. I mean, Dwight Clark's totally covered on the play. Everson Wallace is all over him, but he's got his back to him. And Montana throws the ball high, and Dwight Clark was tall, and he jumped up to catch the ball. And Everson Wallace didn't even know what was going on because he didn't turn, probably thinking, well, there's no way he's throwing to this guy. I got him covered. And so it was a beautiful play, but that's what you need at the goal line, is one of those mismatch high throws, but not otherwise. He was never open because there's no room to run. You've got 10 yards and you're out of bounds in every direction except for back towards the playing field. So that's how smart Bill Walsh was. He would run it in, and the Giants would run it in with Otis Anderson, and Walter Payton would run it in, and Emmitt Smith would run it in. That's what you needed. Very difficult to throw the ball in there. And as we know, the most famous is Russell Wilson. You had Marshawn Lynch, got the ball to 1, and Russell Wilson was deadly on that quarterback option where he either gives it to the tailback or he keeps it and rolls around end for a touchdown. That was the play to run. No, they tried to throw it, and it was intercepted on an obvious run situation. New England's defense wasn't that good. I mean, they had run it down to the 1-yard line or 2-yard line. So it was a terrible play call by Coach Pete or whoever made it, or if Russell Wilson made it, or if it was fixed. I don't really know. These are the problems. So Barkley will keep him in the game. As bad as Hurts is, give him a few interceptions. It's a very talented KC defense, but it's a very talented defense on both teams. So I think the game's in the 20s. I mean, I still think if you prefer the over at 48, you go to 42. I think you're okay. But again, if it goes to 50, 51, I would go under 57. If I get another 2 or 3 points, then I go under. But right now I go over 42. It's a 20s game. They'll have enough offense to score. The other way, I think you go dog. I think Barkley cleans up from Hurts being really a weak quarterback. So Hurts can run, but we've seen running quarterbacks don't really do much against Kansas City, Lamar and Jim Kelly last week and all that. So they really don't do anything against them. So that's why Burrow beats them, because he's not a running quarterback. He'll kill you passing. But the runners don't do anything. So Jalen Hurts is not a really good quarterback. He's more of a runner. You got Barkley. You don't need Hurts running. So anyway, I think it's in the 20s. Another, just like the Buffalo game, it'll be 27-24. 28, 25, 29, 26, somewhere in that neighborhood. Both defenses are too strong to really let up. And see, here's where you get misled. You look at the Philly Washington game, they put up 55. Well, Washington didn't have a very good defense. Go back to the Ram game, and the Rams, it was 28-22. I think you're going to get much more of that game where they couldn't score a lot on the Rams, and they're not going to. Spagnuolo is going to blitz them. I mean, it's. You saw what the Rams did. They blitzed them 7 times. Washington, I don't think blitzed much. That Louvu guy did. Washington is not strong enough defensively. You knew they weren't going to, win the game because you knew their defense was going to catch up to them. Just like the Lions, they were never going to win the Super Bowl. Had they beat Washington, they were never going to beat Philly because you have this weak defense. So you've got to realize that. So now here we've got strength against strength, 2 strong defenses, 2 A teams. Here's where you tease the dog, and then it's over or under, probably both win. It's probably right in that little 45 to 55 window. I don't see where you're going to get it, but I do see they'll score. Mahomes has a way of scoring points. Barkley, he'll break one or something, or break some 20-yard runs. It's really hurts that you're, is the weak link in this game. Again, Philly not understanding that, thinking he's better than he is, misses. They pass up on these good quarterbacks for him. Let's see, who's this? I love when I get a text and I don't know who it is. They say, "Hi, how are you?" I'm like, who are you? Why are you? Why? Talk to me. Who is this? All right. Anyway, so that's what you got to understand in football. If you watch all these playoff games and Super Bowls, it becomes, and even college, becomes the team with the best defense normally wins, although Notre Dame didn't beat Ohio State. That was college is a little different because they play these weak teams and they have weak schedules. And that's really what it is. Notre Dame really didn't play anybody. Just a bunch of scammers. I don't know where they get my number from, and they act like they know me. Like, no. So this is the problem. In college, Notre Dame didn't play anybody. Penn State didn't play anybody. Ohio State probably had the hardest schedule. They played Oregon and Indiana and Penn State, where Penn State didn't play anybody, just Ohio State. And Oregon had a pretty good schedule. But, some of these teams just had a weak schedule. And they weren't very good. So that's what you've got to realize. So in the pros, though, it's you might play your weak teams, your Carolinas, your Tennessees, your Jacksonvilles, but you're still going to play 4 or 5 really good teams like Philly. Dallas, the Giants stink. Washington was good offensively, but they did beat Baltimore and Pittsburgh, and they had some good games. So you can see how good their defense. So I would look at this as like a ball. Well, it's hard to look at a ball. I think I'd look at it as against Cincinnati, and I believe that was pretty high scoring game. Let's take a look at that. But even Cincinnati isn't a fair look because they didn't really have that strong defense. So if we look at Philly, if we can see that far. Yeah, I can't. I got to see the whole picture. So they beat Baltimore 24-19, which is a lower scoring game in that situation against a fairly good offense, but they blitzed Lamar good. They lost to Washington, and then Green Bay 22-10, the Rams. So I think it's right in there, 22, 28 points. They put up a 41 on Dallas, a 33 on Washington with the weak defense, 27 on Pitt, whose defense wasn't that good. But Baltimore, 24-19 in the Rams. So I wish I could see the whole. Maybe I could see it here. Oh, here we go. Okay. They beat Cincinnati 37-17. They did lose to Tampa. They lost to Atlanta without Penix. Very strange. Again, Jacksonville, Dallas, the Giants, Cleveland. There's so many bad teams in there. New Orleans. They actually lost to Atlanta. And then they killed Dallas and then beat the Giants that they didn't play. So, again, that's kind of what you're looking at. See, this is where you go third dimensional. You look at who did Philly play that's similar to KC. And if I look at this, possibly the Rams. They won 28-22. There's got to be a team with a good defense. Pittsburgh, 27-13. He's got a good – so they put up 27 on Pitt, 24 on Baltimore, 24-19. And that's it. Cincinnati, the Giants don't have. Cleveland, Tampa doesn't have. New Orleans. That's it. So they only played 2 or 3 really good defensive teams. Baltimore, Pittsburgh. They did put up 17 on Cincy. It was 37-17 with Cincy. So they held Joe Burrow to 17. And they held Daniels to 18 in the first game and then 33 in the second game. Holding Lamar to 19 is nothing. And then Stafford got 22 on him and Daniels 23. So I think there's room for points here. But Mahomes controls the game better than Hurts. And it's how key is your quarterback. I think Mahomes is so much better than Hurts, but Barkley against Hunt, Barkley is better, but KC, Spagnuolo you watch, they'll blitz 90% of the game. There's no reason to do a cover 2 because you want to blitz Hurts anyway, and if he hands to Barkley, you want to blitz him. You don't want him picking the holes. So I would think KC would do a lot of blitzing. Their defensive lineman, Neil Smith, or Chris Jones, whatever the guy's name is, Smith and Jones. He's a force by himself. I don't know if Philly's got a good offensive line or not. I don't know what that means, to tell you the truth. If I put 6 guys on, I don't care how good your line is. You only got 5 trying to block 6. It ain't going to work. So they'll run a lot of creative blitzes, Kansas City. And I think that'll bother Hurts into some turnovers. And Barkley will get his yards. KC, you can't rattle Mahomes because he can read your blitz, and him and Kelsey and everything. So this is where it's going to be close. Barkley will get his scores. G asked me about should I play Hunt for anytime touchdowns. And I go, I don't know. He's not going to, Mahomes runs the team. He'll throw for touchdowns. Now, maybe he'll throw to Hunt. But you got Jalen Carter, and I, it's a hard call to say a running back's going to score on that defense. Like I said, Joe Burrow only got 17. Daniels did, but Daniels is a very elusive quarterback who scored on a 10-yard run last week where they had no chance. So that's what you have. So it becomes that. So I just see it being like 28-24 type of games. I think it gets over the 48, and I think you take the dog, but you're careful with Mahomes. They don't normally blow out teams in these. Like last week with the 49ers, they won it was overtime. They won by 3. The other years against the Rams, they barely won. I mean, I think they beat them by 10 the first game on a kind of a fluke. The Niners were up 10, and then they went down 3, and then up 4, and then maybe they won by 11 on just the Rams being, terribly coached. But you're not going to do that against KC or against Philadelphia, I don't think. Hurts will run too much. Not a terrible call. I wouldn't bet any of the Philly receivers to catch 5 passes. And then it's mostly Barkley and Hurts running. So if you want an anytime touchdown, there's probably more Hurts than Barkley. But see, I hate those things because in this game with 2 great defenses, I'd be on interceptions and fumbles and stopping 4th downs. I don't know what they are. I don't pay attention to these things. They're the biggest sucker bets because what are the odds? So G wants to play a 3-team parlay here. And what are your odds? Are you getting good odds? I don't know. I mean, why do you need to bet on anytime touchdowns? Just bet the game, So anyway, that's my feelings on it. So anyway, I think it's close. I think at the end of the day, KC probably gets the win, but I think it's a tease the dog and go over at 48. At 51, you go under, and because it'll be right in there. They're not going to score 40 points. That's not going to happen. So anyway, so that's our Super Bowl look. These coaches being hired, Matt Eberflus, the guy from the Bears, is the defensive coordinator at Dallas. They've hired Schottenheimer's kid. Schottenheimer was the biggest choke coach in the world. He'd talk about not winning a playoff game. He'd go 12-1, and then they'd lose in the first round to some shit team. Very bad coach. He played not to lose. That's why he lost. He never played to win. And I don't know that his son. I wasn't impressed with the Dallas offense. That I'd make him my head coach. I think this guy lasts 2 years and he's gone. I don't think they'll win 5 games a year, especially if they go back to Dak Prescott. They have no chance. I mean, now they got CeeDee Lamb basically and Micah Parsons. That's their team, and they don't play to their strengths, so they got big problems. Anyway, we'll talk more about that. Let's get back to economics. So I was watching the Madoff thing on Netflix. I like watching that, but I study it for different things. I know the ending. My first question is, why is the Ponzi scheme illegal? The U.S. government and the Treasury have been doing it for 50 years. They've been printing money that's not backed by anything. It's just because the government says we're gonna work in it, it's accepted, but it's really not real. It's phony money. It's not backed by anything, which makes it worthless. And yet that Ponzi scheme, nobody questions, and people get hurt. And then they go and do this housing crisis, which was a planned thing. And everybody goes bankrupt, or the stock market collapses, and then everybody loses their money. But they bail out the banks, but they don't bail out the people. The Federal Reserve is set by the banks to bail them out when they fuck up. What kind of crap is that? That's why it's not in the Constitution, a central bank. That's why money needs to be backed by gold, because all it is a big Ponzi scheme. They print money, they put it in their pockets, they put it in the stock market, whatever, wherever they put it, and they keep it, and it's just a Ponzi scheme. So when I look at Madoff, I go, what's illegal about it? If you think about it, if you gave Madoff $1 million, he gave you 15% every year, or however they paid it out monthly. But they would get a 15% return on their investment every year. What's illegal about it? I mean, if I gave Bobby, no, let's not use it. If I gave Phil $10,000, he says, you give me 10 grand and I'm going to give you 10% interest a month. What's illegal about it? And I get the 10%. Now, I don't know what Phil's doing with my money. All I know is if I give him 10 grand, he's going to give me 10%. Fine. And he keeps giving me 10%. What's wrong with that? A bank does it. The bank, you give them 10,000 and they only give you 2%. So how legal is that? I don't ask what the bank puts their money in. I don't care as long as they keep giving me the money. And so I don't really understand what was wrong with Madoff as long as he paid out what was wrong with it. Now, at the end, he could have just simply shut it down, said, I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm retiring. I will refund your money back, and that's it. He should have done it like 2 years prior. I'm surprised he didn't see the housing crisis coming when Clinton, the genius, made everybody, made all the banks take the loans. Well, even though a kid doesn't work or he only makes $5,000 a year, give him a loan for $100,000. And so obviously that was going to fall apart. He did that in '97. So I'm surprised Madoff didn't see that coming. And if Michael Berry saw it coming, how he didn't see it coming. And so he should have ended it. And then, okay, it's 2006. I've got millions and millions of dollars. I'm going to get out of it. Unless the Russian mafia wouldn't allow him to get out, which is my thought. And so I think he was in it, and the Russian mafia is probably, don't worry, JP Morgan, don't worry, the SEC, don't worry, we got your back, except for the crisis where everybody needed money. And that's really what happens. And that's what's going to happen now. People are going to need the money because they're printing it to death. And then when you need the money, what are you going to do? You're going to sit there and you're going to sell your assets, your stocks, pull your money from the bank, do a mortgage on your house, refinancing, and all these are going to kill your markets. And then everybody loses at the end, except for us gold guys. And I think that's why I don't think a lot of people are jumping into Bitcoin at 90, 100,000 a Bitcoin. It's just Saylor and Fink, the two Ponzi schemes. They're the Ponzi schemers. Saylor should be in jail for his Ponzi scheme, as well as Larry Fink should be in jail, and Jamie Dimon. All these bankers should be in jail for fraud. The whole thing. We've got a $36 trillion debt. Who's going to jail for that? That's not how you run a business or anything. If I get a paycheck of $1,000 and I spend $1,200, I'm an idiot, right? I'm not smart. I can't spend more than I have. So why is the government allowed to fuck the dollar over and nobody has a problem with that? Oh, because the government makes the rules. Oh, I get it. So why did Madoff? The government was included, J.P. Morgan. So I don't know why, if J.P. Morgan was getting their cut, that he went to jail. I think that's ridiculous. I don't know why he ever told anybody. I think he should have just shut it off. Nobody really wanted their money, as I hear the thing. I tried to give the money back, and everybody said, "No, you keep it. I like the 15% that I'm getting when everybody else is giving me 4 or 5." But again, I still don't see what's wrong with it, because he was paying out. People would get their 15% a year since 1980. So what was wrong? I don't get what was wrong. Why didn't need to invest? If people give me money and I give you the interest every month, fine. What's wrong with that? So I think that's a big problem I have, is he didn't do anything wrong. He paid out. If he didn't pay out, then I would say there's a problem. But he did pay out, so I didn't see the problem in it. Okay, maybe he lied because he said he was investing the money, but I don't think he said anything. I think he said he was doing a double reverse switch or Rooney or whatever with the stocks, and he never bought. Maybe that's why, but nobody really asserted themselves against him because they were all getting paid and they were happy. So I really don't get why what he did was illegal. The biggest problem I have is the attorney. First of all, that SIPC should have paid out $500,000 apiece. Where was that? Oh, wait, that's the government Ponzi scheming the people. So we can't do anything against the SIPC. And then that one attorney making people pay back, that was the biggest Ponzi scheme. Why didn't the government bail them out? The government, if you made money on Madoff, go ahead, leave the room, you're fine. If you lost money on Madoff, you're an idiot. You got what you deserve. You can't, why am I taking money from people that took a risk? You played blackjack and you won. Oh, wait, you won. I got to take your money and give it to the losers. What is that? Oh, well, that's fair. That's not fair. You all had risk, just like you're playing blackjack now. So imagine going to Caesar's Palace and you're playing blackjack and you win the hand, you got $100 a hand, you're playing the whole table. And there's three people that win and three people that lose. Now, this is about as stupid as it is. Okay, wait, you won $100, so you got to give it to the person who lost 100. What kind of crap is that? You're all risking, you're all taking the gamble. It's a gamble with everybody. Why do I have to make the losers whole? That's my first question. Why do I steal from the guy who made the money, who took the risk and won? Why am I taking his? Especially after 10, 20, 30 years. There's got to be a statute of limitation there. Okay, so let's go back the last 2 years. But why am I even doing that? You risked that Madoff was going to make money, and he did. That's your money. And then the people that lost, well, you took a risk and you lost. Do they do it in stocks? Well, geez, Nivea went down $30. Well, the people that made money are going to have to pay the people that lost money on Nivea who bought it too late. That's a bunch of horse shit. That guy should have went to jail. The attorney, he's the one who made all the money. I guess he made $1 billion. Bullshit charging all this. Why anybody paid him, I have no idea. I wouldn't have. I would have went bankrupt before I paid him. So I don't get that. I don't get how you can do that. So if I hit my football bet, I'm supposed to pay it back, and so I can pay the guy who lost. What kind of horseshit is that? So again, I don't really understand the problem with the Ponzi scheme and the fact that he paid everybody out. That is what I don't understand. And why the winners would have to pay the money back. Well, did they know it was a Ponzi scheme? I don't think most people have any idea what a Ponzi scheme even is. I don't think if my father was in it and then I invested in it because he's in it, I don't know it's a Ponzi scheme. It's a good investment. My dad gave me stock tips when I was young. I got into football betting when I was 10 years old. So I made my money betting football. I didn't play stocks. I never played stocks because once I got my master's and I knew stocks were corrupt, I didn't want anything to do with them. They're not long-term. If I did play long-term, it'd be like Coke and Pepsi, but I never did. In fact, I did a directed study on the trade cycle and the stock market. And it's basically what interest rates do is how you play stocks. So when they go up, you don't buy GM and Ford because the market cost goes up, which creates less sales for the car companies or anything selling based on interest rates, houses and cars. You don't want to be in them when the interest rates are going up. Now, when the interest rates are coming down, then you move your money into the car companies because then people will start buying cars because of the lower interest. So basically, it comes back to what is the market? And it's basically if you put ribs on sale at my guys in my barbecue restaurant, if you made them $15 for a slab, people would buy thousands of slabs. But if you made them 45, nobody's going to buy. So it's that concept with stocks. So I never got into the stock market. It's just an illusion that you're going to make money. It's like the Wizard of Oz. Don't pull the curtain. You'll see that the guy is an idiot. He's not a wizard, and he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing, which is government. They don't know what the fuck they're doing. And that's the thing. So you don't get drawn in. I never get drawn into a scam because I read it too fast. So I bet football because I can read it and I can see, like, here, oh yeah, Mahomes will probably win, but be close, be high scoring. I can figure all that out. So you can't Ponzi scheme me or scam me in football like you can in stocks, because you can be looking at a beautiful stock with a great earnings and great product, and it goes down, or somebody gets indicted and the stock drops 50 points and you get the shit beat out of you overnight. That's why I avoid it. That's why I buy gold stocks and get in and out in a day. I never wake up where it's down, because I'm out of it before I go to sleep. And that's how you did it. But I don't do that anymore. I just buy the physical. And I never worry about I'm waking up and gold's down to $100 an ounce. I never, that's impossible to happen. And I'm never worried about it. There's too much demand for it, and there's too little supply that will make that. And they're trying. JP Morgan wants to lower it for all his derivatives, but they can't, right? It just keeps getting bought up, and bought up, and bought up from the BRICS people. So the Ponzi schemes that happen now are a lot in digital, crypto, Sam Bankman-Friedman and the crypto queen, and all these phony Bitcoins that are not real. Even Bitcoin's not real because there's nothing there. There is no coin. It's just nothing. You're buying nothing. It's a Ponzi scheme. And yet people come in and bitch at me. Well, you cost me. I didn't buy it. It's a Ponzi scheme. I'm supposed to cost you. I'm supposed to keep you out of that. You want to play with real stuff. You want to play gold. You want to play Rolex watches, Mantle cards, Picassos, or things like that. That's what you want to play. Real things, not pretend things that are digital. Digitals are not real. This is the whole point of, yes, I am protecting you, but you're too stupid to realize it because you're getting caught into the Ponzi of, oh, well, Madoff always gives me 15%. So I don't care if it's a Ponzi. I don't know if it's a Ponzi, but I know I get 15%. And that's what he's doing. So in this situation, the Ponzi scheme is this. This is the Ponzi scheme. They've got you fooled into believing this has value, and it does. They have you fooled in the fact that you go to the grocery store, the restaurant, and you can pay with this. So not only does the grocery store and the restaurant think it's real, but you think it's real because you can go to the grocery store and buy $100 worth of goods thinking, oh, I'll pay for it with dollars. They're not even real, but I'll pay for it. And the grocery store has to take them because that's their business, is to sell their inventory. And they take the dollar because that's how they priced it. It's all a Ponzi scheme. The dollar isn't real. They have a $36 trillion debt. Is that real? Kind of. I mean, it's as real as the dollar is. There's a $36 trillion debt that apparently we have to play, but the whole game is not real. The whole game's a Ponzi scheme. The dollars are worthless, but they pretend they are. You go to work and you make income, but you're getting paid in dollars. Do you want to get paid in dollars? No, I want to get paid. I've asked to get paid in gold. They kind of laugh because they don't understand. But I tell people, I'll see people, I don't know who they are. They're probably VPs or managers. And I go, this is all, I'll be watching Bloomberg. This is all monopoly money. This is ridiculous. Gold is the only way out because it's real. You can put it in your hands and nobody can fix it. And they're all fixing the price of the dollar. I love when the FX rate, I look at with Daria and the US, the FX rate's 98. So $1 buys me 98 rubles. It's all bullshit. I read you the description. It's based on just a bunch of crap. It's not, they say, well, it's supply and demand but it's judgment and it's this and it's that and the banks, what they think and the inflation of the country and da, 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 da. It's all bullshit. That's why gold, but even the gold price is bullshit. We know the gold price is much higher because it's been held down by JP Morgan and their derivatives and the other bullion banks. And they're all fucked because they're stupid enough to short something that there's high demand on. Only an idiot would short something there's high demand on. That's extremely limited. It'd be like shorting a Mickey Mantle card. What are you, out of your mind? There's demand for it. It's limited. It's never going to go down in value. Why the fuck would you short it? Same thing with Rolexes. They're never going to go down because they're extremely limited and high in demand. And Picasso's or Van Gogh behind me, that's a Van Gogh, but it's just a poster. It's not a real. But if you had a real, that would never go down in value because there's demand in it. The only things that go down is when the demand goes away. So like an electric car, you bought it for 90,000 from Tesla and you'll be lucky to get 10,000 for it because there's no demand for it. So the value's gone. There's no demand for this. The value's gone. There's no demand for it because all the BRICS countries are getting out of this into gold. There's no demand for this because they printed too much, so people are getting out of it. See, once people realize they're in a Ponzi scheme, they never realized Madoff was a Ponzi scheme, which is why I'm livid about the guy saying, oh, you won, you got to pay it back and we'll give it to the loser. Why? That makes zero sense to me. The guy who lost money knew it was a Ponzi scheme. It's just the timing. Did the guy who got in know it was a Ponzi scheme? I don't know. Maybe it depends how savvy they are in finance. That I avoided it because I said you can only make 5%. And these people are making 15. That's impossible. It's obviously a Ponzi scheme. But I knew that because my background's Austrian economics and finance. So I knew if it's something smells, just to stay away. And so when it's reversed with gold, gold smells the other way. It's only $1,800 an ounce for gold. Now it's only Now it's only $30 an ounce for silver. I think that's the biggest one that smells. $30 an ounce for silver, really? That smell? Wait a minute, that doesn't sound right. Why is it $30? And so people will look at it like that, and they'll look at it funny, going, "No, that doesn't make sense." And it's right; it's being held down. But the derivatives keeping the price down so their other derivatives don't explode and they'll go broke is helping everybody get rich off of silver. I don't know who that is, but I am busy. They keep trying to sell me a shower. We're going to update your tub and your shower. You sent us messages. I haven't sent you anything. I live in an apartment. I'm not fucking around with my shower and my tub here. I don't even know if I can. It's not my place to do it. But I keep getting you get on these calls and I just block them. I mean, I say, take your scam somewhere else. I don't know if they're even real or they're just trying to get my information. Anyway, so people don't really understand when they're being used and abused. And the biggest Ponzi scheme is the US government with this shit. And yet nobody's calling them out on it. JP Morgan has done more Ponzi schemes and more stealing than anybody. And yet all he does is get fined. Even in Madoff has $2 billion in his account. And JP Morgan didn't do anything because he's getting his cut. He had to pay a fine, but nobody went to jail. Nobody from the SEC went to jail. They were in on it. The Russian mafia, well, they kept quiet. Madoff was the only one to go to jail, and about 5 or 6 of his people working for him who probably didn't know it was a Ponzi scheme either. A couple of people knew it was a Ponzi scheme because they were faking the trades, but really, I would have just said, I'm going to give you 15%, shut the fuck up. I wouldn't even have said anything about it. How are you doing it? Confidential, can't tell you. Now, you ask me how I pick football games, I explain it, and I post them, and I give you the picks. It would be a Ponzi scheme if I wasn't giving you the picks until after the game was played. but you get the picks and you know what I'm doing beforehand, and there is picks. So it's totally legit. I'm selling information before they like the Super Bowl. Okay, take the dog in the over. Okay, there's the pick. You buy the pick, you get the pick. It's not a Ponzi scheme. I gave you the information. If it wins or loses is a different story. In Madoff's world, he always wins. In my world, I do pick losers. But that's the whole thing. So the government is notorious for being corrupt, and people paying them off, and they get the benefit. The people paying them off get the benefit. Because it's really JP Morgan they're paying off, and JP Morgan takes their cut, and it's all fantasy. There's nothing real about the stock market, the banks, or anything. There's nothing real about the dollar. This is the biggest scam. This isn't real. This is totally worthless. But the illusion is, oh, I'm going to get paid $20 an hour by working. They're going to pay me in this, and I'm going to go pay my bills. I need this to pay my bills. And now they're killing the value of it, printing it. Why are they doing that? Because they're caught where their expenses are so high because they're all stealing. All the governors, senators, congressmen, they're all a bunch of thieves. And then they get in to the defense contractors and Zelensky and all these people. They're paying off, so they need more money. They print more money. Then they give you this fantasy of, well, we'll just print more money, which you can't because. So here's where my clear head comes in and says, well, you can't keep printing the money. It goes to zero. And so once people realize the money's worthless, the game's over. But they keep people in the dark going, well, we'll just print more money. Everything will be fine. Oh, look, your stocks, Amazon's up $100. Oh, you're making money. I'm making you money. But the money you're making me isn't real. What the fuck are you talking about? There's no, it's not real what I'm making. It's fake. And so that's really the problem with it. So in the Madoff thing, it was fake, and he was actually paying people, and they weren't losing. Nobody who got paid lost value in their investment. So if you gave them $1 million and you're getting 15% every year or whatever a month, you would keep getting it. So I don't really get the harm of it. So be careful what you call a Ponzi scheme, because the U.S. this is the biggest Ponzi scheme. This is worthless. You're telling everybody this has a value. Now, let's say this was 100. This is worth $100 is the Ponzi scheme. It's not. It's not worth $100. It's worth 100 in today's value. This is where it gets really gray. In today's market, it's worth 100. Let's compare it to 1971 and what the 100 can buy, and that's why I bring it up. You bought a car for $4,571, now costs you probably $50,000. Well, wait a minute, what happened? So the value of the dollar has been Ponzi schemed. It's been losing value because they're printing it, but they won't say anything. Then they lie about it. Oh, inflation's 2%. It's under control. No, it isn't. In fact, they don't even know what inflation is, or they really know what inflation is, but they lie to you saying it's prices, which it isn't. It's the money printing, and the value of the dollar goes way down. And that's what the inflation really is. So they lie to you about what it really is. Then they lie to you about if they're doing prices, that the prices are down, are only up 2%. And then they go and say, well, we'll do year over year. That's not a good way to do it, because Coke was $1.50, is now $3, but it's sitting at $3 for the last few years. So are you going to say inflation's even because Oreo cookies went from $2 to $5, but since they're still $5, that's it? So all a bunch of lies, all a bunch of Ponzi schemes. Then they don't let you learn about it in school, which is a bigger Ponzi scheme. Well, we don't teach Austrian economics. We teach Keynesians, which is taught by a bunch of idiots who don't know what they're talking about. I took a Keynesian class in my undergrad, and I don't know what the fuck the guy said. Probably the worst teacher I've ever had in my life. I did the final in 20 minutes. I just looked at it. It was all gibberish to me, and I handed it in. Then I went to my master's program and got Austrian economics, and I spit it out to you every day without even looking at anything, except for if I want to delineate a few notes that I want to make sure I get correct. Um, and that's where we learned about gold and silver being real money and no central bank and inflation, what inflation really is and everything. So that's what I learned in my master's, which I spew to you. And people want to know where they can get it. You can only get it here. I just showed you Bill Holder, the cowboy, doesn't even know what it is. Mark McGuire didn't correct him. He doesn't know what it is. Alligator has no idea. And the only one that kind of does is Egon, which is why I show you Egon so much, because he gets it. But the whole Ponzi scheme is they're trying to pass this off as having value. It doesn't. It did until 1971 when we were on the gold standard. It was backed by gold. It had value. As soon as we took it off, gold spiked to 800. And the dollar's been basically not real since 1971, but nobody knows it because they keep going to the store going, oh, well, they'll take it at the store, which is part of the Ponzi scheme, is the store accepts it. If the stores knew what they were doing, they would not accept it. Or like my friend at Toyota, when his buddies in the parts, owns a auto parts company, at the end of the day, he goes and turns it into gold. He Rumpelstiltskins every night. What do I owe? 20 grand. I made 40 grand. I'll take the other 20 and buy gold with it. He does that every night because he gets it. But there's only a few people like that who actually get this is worthless. You need to be Rumpelstiltskin. That's why I kind of get into like a Rumpelstiltskin or a Titanic to get your attention. So you go, oh, okay, that's what he's talking. Then everybody understands that. Everybody understands if I say Titanic. If I start talking like Mark McGuire, nobody's going to fucking understand what the hell I'm saying, including myself. So I don't go there. But Austrian economics is simple. It's keep the money secure, gold and silver, free trade, so keep the economy going, low taxes because the private sector should have the money, not the public sector. We can see what the public sector does. Oh, we have a $36 trillion debt. We have wars going on as they're selling it. Then I heard yesterday where they're worried about keeping the silver price down for the military so they don't have to pay too much for it. That's a bunch of horseshit. You can't do that. Now there's all this demand for silver there isn't there. It's too bad. You'll go to a different metal. If gold's too expensive, you went to silver. If silver's too expensive, because now it's $500 an ounce and you need it for your Tomahawk missiles and some other, you use copper or you use zinc or you use another thing to use. But you don't keep the price down so they can use it because it's very little anyway. And that's you don't price fix so people can use it to make things. No, that's not about that. It's always free market. So why don't they keep we all need pens, let's keep them at 1 cent. No, this is $4 or $5 for 4 of them. Well, let's keep it at 1 cent because people need pens. Doesn't work that way. The thing is with silver, because it comes out of a mine, the miners are the ones getting screwed because the miners take the $30 instead of being intelligent enough to say, I'm selling it for 500, just like me and you. When we go to sell our gold and silver, which probably will never happen, but when I have my silver and I'm paying $30 an ounce for it, there's no fucking way I'm taking $30 an ounce. Unless it's an absolute emergency, I am not taking 30 an ounce for my silver. I'm not selling it at that ridiculously low price when I know it's worth at least $1,000 an ounce. And then I love these people who say, oh, it's 50 is his all-time high. The derivative 50, the paper 50, the price fix 50. Yeah, that's as high as it goes in a price fix world. In a free market world, it's 1,000 or 2,000 already. And even when they try to challenge it, well, it's 10 ounces of silver to 1 ounce of gold. So gold's 2,800, silver should be 280. No, because the 2,800 isn't real. These people are so stupid. They don't understand. The gold price at 2,800 isn't real. It's much, much higher, and it's priced in dollars, but it's held down by the paper derivative market, keeping the price down. So it's not a free market price. That's why technical analysis doesn't work. That's why you can't compare it and say this is its real value, because you don't know its real value. That's why you can't use charts and trends to look at it, because it's been suppressed. The charts and trends are in free markets, right? You can look at, maybe you can look at stocks. You can look at this. This you can look at and say, well, what's it? Oh, it's 30, now it's 50, now it's 70. Okay, I can get a trend. I can get a trend on this. Oh, this was $500, now it's 1,000, because it's free market and it's real. I can't get a trend on Bitcoin because it doesn't exist, and I can't get a trend on paper, gold, and silver, or for that matter, any of these paper commodities. You don't know what coffee is, sugar, oil. Oil is nowhere near its real price. We don't know what it is. Again, it's priced in barrels in US dollars, which is worthless. So basically, the whole thing is a Ponzi scheme. Even the gold, it's not a Ponzi scheme in the fact that gold has value. It's a Ponzi scheme in the fact they're holding the price down to 2,800. Why those people aren't arrested and in jail for Ponzi scheming, I have no idea. They're very corrupt, and they're fucking with the whole market, and it's hurting the public. So why aren't they forced to sell their gold, and people who lost money on gold thinking it was really priced, pay them? Because I know people that I'll say buy gold. He says, well, I bought gold before and it was 2,100, and then it went down to 1,900 and I sold it. Didn't even know it was paper gold. And he lost money on it because he thought it would go up, because he doesn't understand it's paper gold. And it goes up because the demand from bricks forces it up. That's why it goes up. But once we get rid of the derivatives, which we're hoping is soon, if when COMEX blows up because Russia, China, and Dubai come out with these physical exchanges, because they want real free market physical exchanges, not the Ponzi scheme. And so JP Morgan, let's look at this versus Madoff. JP Morgan is running these derivatives, and they're making a lot of money, basically trading it among themselves. So that'd be like me and Bobby keeps trading these derivatives and options, and I do it, and then he buys it, and then he does something, and I buy it, and it's all fixed. That's a Ponzi scheme. So why does JP Morgan get to keep their money in the Ponzi scheme, and the rest of the bullion banks playing these games, making a lot of money, totally illegal? And wait, how about the people that have bought the gold and silver and watched it go down because of these Ponzi schemes, because of the paper price, not the physical price? Why don't they go to jail? Why aren't they? Why is Jamie Dimon not in jail for the rest of his life for this bullshit? He runs the bank. He knows what's going on. He should be in jail for this, and they should all be. The bank should be out of business and have to pay everybody who lost in gold back their money with interest. So you do it on Madoff. You hurt regular people, but you don't hurt the banks, because the banks are in charge. And that's really the Ponzi scheme. The banks are sitting there in charge, fucking everybody over. Even if you put your money in the bank and they give you a 10% interest, which I think you can get in an annuity, you're selling this bullshit money. And that's the other part of the Ponzi scheme is you put your money, you give them your money. And when they do bail-ins, because they're going to lose all this money on either the stock market crashing or the commercial real estate, or the people who bought houses and cars who have loans with them won't be able to pay it back. They're going to bail. They're going to steal your money. You gave them 100,000. They owe you 100,000. But if you're stupid enough to trust them, you trusted Madoff, and now you're going to trust JP Morgan or Chase or Wells Fargo. that you actually gave them money, that you think the money's yours, and that they're actually going to give it back to you. And if they do, the money they're giving you is totally, you have this and you have this. I mean, this is my eye cleaner. What's the difference? This is probably worth more. It actually serves a function. This doesn't. But that's the problem. You give them money and you're getting this back, and you think this has value, which it doesn't. Again, I went, go to the grocery store, $13, $14 a pound for salmon, New York strip. Why is it so much? Because the dollar's not worth anything. But people are not going to recognize that. They think higher prices is the inflation, and they want to blame the producer who's making it. They want to blame the steak guy, Hunt's ketchup or Heinz baked beans, and they go up and they cost more. They want to blame them when the blame is the dollar. And that's just, you shake your head, but are you going to repay everybody for getting fucked over by you guys? By printing the money, by lying about it, by saying it's prices, not we printed the money to death? We can't admit that. Why not? You're fucking everybody over. And that's really the point of me and the point of this class, is to make you aware of what's going on. Your money is worthless. Face it. Luke, your guy with $4 million is in monopoly money. They're not worth a penny. Now, he's a perfect example of being Madoff. He doesn't understand his money's worthless. He doesn't understand the government printing the money to zero. He thinks inflation's prices. He thinks, well, I got $4 million, so I can handle the price increases. Your money's worthless. You're missing that point, that the money has no value. So it's really just, you want to, what I didn't like is you were punishing Madoff, which you shouldn't have, because he paid out. And then everybody that made money on Madoff, you want it back to pay the people that lost. The people that lost are fucked. If you can't get your money out of the bank, so you give $100,000 to the bank and they start doing these bail-ins and they can't get their money, what are you going to do? Go to people who made money in the CDs and the money markets? Are you going to take the money from them to give to the people who can't get their money out of the banks because the banks are crooked? Are you going to, when the stock market crashes, you're going to go after the people that made money in Amazon and say, wait, you made money in Amazon. Joe over there lost money because the market just crashed, so we're going to take your money to give it to him. It's insanity. I've never heard of this before. How do you take money from somebody that risked and made it, and you're going to steal their money to give to somebody who lost? Fuck the people that lost. They're taking a risk. If you lose on the Super Bowl, that's it. You took a risk. You lost. Nobody forced you to make a bet. Nobody forced you to give your money to Madoff. That was a free thing you did. You did it on free choice. It's not like the Nazis had a gun to your head. You must invest in Madoff. Nobody had a gun to your head. You had free will to give him the money, knowing there's risk, because if you understood why, you probably didn't understand why you got into it. Well, my uncle's been into it for 20 years, and he makes it. My dad was in it, and Joe was in it, and the guy from Europe, Felipe, whatever, was in it, and one's dumber than the next, and they're in it, but that's their risk. It's like, you've got to understand what you're getting into, and nobody's got a gun to your head to get into Madoff. So if you lose money in Madoff, as far as I can see, nobody's responsible but you. And the fact it's a Ponzi scheme doesn't make Madoff responsible, because everybody for 20 years was making money. So it was a perfectly legitimate, give me money and I'm going to give you interest. And that's what he did. And there's nothing wrong with that. He paid it out, unlike the banks now who steal your money, who bail you in, who are devaluing the dollar. That's far more worse, because you think this still is worth $1. You think $100 bill is still worth $100. And the best part about gold and silver is they were really much more expensive, but you think an ounce of silver is $30. So you can take your bullshit money that's worthless to buy the silver that's probably worth $2,000 for $30. And that's how we take advantage of this Ponzi scheme. So what I'm giving you is the knowledge that you're in a Ponzi scheme and the out. This is how you escape and survive the Titanic sinking, is you get to a lifeboat. That's how you survive. That's what I'm telling you, but only you can't see the dollar lifeboat going sinking. But what does Egon say? Well, it's lost 99% of its value. So it's in the water. There's only 1%. So it's basically in the water. And basically there's this much left in the water, of the whole dollar bill. This is all that's left. And it's about to sink. But you can't see it. And then you see, well, the dollar's up against the Swiss franc or the British or the euro or the British pound today. The dollar's at 110 versus another heavily inflated currency that's not even real. How they came up with it is fantasy. There is no mark of it. So what you're dealing with is understanding the dollar's worthless, understanding gold and silver are way, way undervalued because of the derivatives. But you got to buy physical. You can't buy ETFs or stocks. Once you understand that, then you take your worthless money and you go to the grocery store and you're fucked there. And then you go to whatever you have left and buy gold and silver with it, which is very cheap, but you understand it's price fixed and you understand BRICS is about to break it open and you understand it's about to go to the moon. So you're taking advantage of the Ponzi scheme by selling your worthless dollars for the gold and silver that are worth a lot more. And that's what you're doing. But you see, it's not everything. The Rolexes are hundreds of thousands of dollars. So they are not price fixed. The Mano card is $70,000. The Montana rookie's 110. The Rice rookie's 110. So those have not been price fixed. So why would a Montana card be worth more than an ounce of gold? In what universe is that possible? Because it isn't. So again, you need to understand what you're in and how to get out of it, which is what I gave you the escape route. The gold and the silver are the escape route. Now, the problem is we're sort of playing a video game here where I'm the wizard, where I'm the professor, and I'm helping you. And then there's people like financial advisors and financial planners who are the bad guys who are saying, oh, don't go into gold, stay in stocks, put it in real estate trust. So you've got, those are the bad guys, like the Joker and the Riddler and the Penguin. Stay in the market. Don't get into gold and silver. Then the other bad guys are the banks who are going to steal your money and keep it and not pay you back. Wait, I got 100 grand there. Sorry, you're not getting out. Then there's the even bigger villains, the government. Those are the big villains because they're the ones printing this, the JP Morgans, who have the monopoly on printing the money. There's no competition. Again, it gets back to monopoly and competition, which is Austrian economics, Bill Holter. And that creates this to being worthless. But they're the real crux because they're the ones printing the money to death, but they're not going to tell you. That is the problem. And this is what most of these hosts on these gold and silver and all these Yankee Doodle dandies and all these other, they just don't understand it. Well, what do you think? The Yankee Doodle dandy guy, what do you think silver's going to go to? Well, it'll never get over to 50, He doesn't even understand. He doesn't understand he's in a Ponzi scheme. He doesn't understand the price is fixed. Doesn't understand the dollar is worthless. He doesn't understand any of it. So what the fuck you doing a show about gold and silver then? Get the fuck off the air. You're not adding value. I get pissed when people are trying to also be villains on the Ponzi scheme and they're trying to take advantage of you and not help you. So the more I read about myself, the more I realize I'm a helper. being stoic. Marcus Aurelius would help the people. He would never hurt the people. And that's what I am, basically, stoic. And and I see it all the time when I go in the club. I just kind of see everything, but just don't react to anything. I just stay stoic and laugh at people or whatever. And if somebody questions me, I just ignore them. Like, who the fuck are you? Stop. I didn't. Don't talk to me. So that's the thing. They're just trying to steal from you. They want to sell their silver because they don't realize it's worth a lot more than they have. Or Peter Schiff or any of these guys, Rickards, this guy with the ETFs. They don't understand the game. They're trying to take your money, maybe to buy gold and silver, I don't know, but they're trying to get your money. ETF guy, Sprout, is the biggest crook. Him and Jamie Dimon are the biggest crooks because he's trying to get you into ETFs, which are absolutely worthless. They're absolutely Ponzi schemes. There is no value there. You don't own any gold. And Jamie Dimon, who's printing the money, making it worthless, they don't even understand their own Ponzi game because they're holding money that as he prints it, it's becoming worthless. Warren Buffett does not understand. He's in a Ponzi scheme. Well, I sold all my stocks and I'm going to take my money and buy whatever cheap. No, you're not, because your money's not worth anything. So everybody listens to the wizard behind the curtain, Buffet and Diamond and Sprout and these guys, Rickard and that, and they're all phonies. But you don't understand, so you don't know they're phonies. So take somebody like me who says they're all fucking you. If the government wasn't fucking you, they'd back the dollar by gold. Look at Trump. He's trying to do this doggy thing with Elon Musk, who I hate. He's one of these criminals in our little video game also. Stealing from the government, which is stealing from us, and coming out with electric cars that nobody wants, and SpaceX, which nobody wants, all government programs, and he's just taking it and stealing. All of a sudden, that's gone. It lasted a week, and now it's like, no, not anymore. We can't cut government, so too bad. Again, they're missing the point. The only way out to save the USA is with gold. Why do you think the Russians, Chinese, India, Saudi Arabia, all the BRICS countries, and now there's 20 of them, why do you think they're all in the gold? Because they get the game. They get the Ponzi scheme. The only out of people holding this is to have real money, which is gold and silver. And that's what they're doing. They're accumulating. Why do you think China has 60,000 tons? Why do you think Russia's got 25,000 tons in Putin's swimming pool? Why do you think he even has a gold train that I was very impressed with? Why do you think India's got all this jewelry and gold in Saudi Arabia and Dubai and obviously South America and Brazil and all these countries? Why do you think they're all getting gold? That's how you get out of the game, out of the Ponzi scheme and into reality. That's how you win the game. So let's look at it as a game. How do I win the video game? I got to get rid of all the villains, financial planners, the banks, the governments, and I got to get out of the money. And at the end of the game, I got to switch the money for gold. That's how I get out of the game. But I'm the only one who's going to tell you that. So you got to find the professor to understand what the game is and how to win it. So you come to the professor and I tell you, because I'm an Austrian professor, and I tell you, well, the secret to winning this game is to get your money into real money, gold and silver, maybe a Rolex, maybe a Mantle card, but primarily gold and silver. Get out of stocks, get out of the bank. Be careful with your house because it's about to go to zero. The dollar's collapsing. That's the part of the game they don't want to tell you. So you find the professor who explains the game to you, and now you realize we're playing a game, so we want to win it. And the way to win the game is with gold and silver. That's how you win the game. So you can continue to pay your mortgage and your credit cards and your car payment with the dollars, which is fine. You continue to pay with the dollars, but they're worthless, but they're taking them until they don't take them anymore. And you do that, and then everything that remains, you put into gold and silver, because again, that's the only way to win the game, is to have sound money. God, what a great concept I just created. I love this video game. How do I create it? But that's what you do. I mean, that's the problem. People do not understand they're in a video. It's like the Matrix. You don't understand you're in the Matrix, so you can't get out of it. You don't understand you're in a video game where they're ruining the dollar on purpose, and the villains are Sprout and JP Morgan and Peter Schiff and Rickards and all these financial planners. You don't even, those are the villains, right? Forget the Jim the Anvil, Neinhardt, Bankman, Friedman guy, and the crypto queen. Those are a whole other villains in a whole other game called crypto, which is another game where it's fake money and people, oh no, it's 100 grand. You're an asshole. You didn't tell me to go in it, because it's not real, but you don't want to believe me. Then okay, don't believe me. There's nothing I can do. I can only tell you how to win the game. If you decide not to bet, and if you don't want to learn how to win the game and you want to ignore that and stay in dollars, you're going to lose the game. And the loss in this game is your value goes to zero. So the sand's running out, the value of this is running to zero, the gold's going up, and the stock market's high, the Bitcoin, all these, but they're all headed down to zero. But you choose to ignore the professor in how to win the game, and you want to keep, more than me. I'll be in Bitcoin, and I'll be in, so Saylor's going to make a fortune, because when he starts selling, it'll go to zero, because there's no support, because it's not real. Or the banks, when they start bailing in and not giving you money, you got idiots like Jamie Dimon and JP Morgan, who are printing the money to death, who don't understand that the inflation makes the dollar worth zero, because all these Keynesian economists say, oh no, you can just keep printing. There's no effect on the supply. So like the Wizard of Oz, Dorothy had to learn the rules of the game, and they had to go to the game where she said, I just want to go home. And then she clicked her silver slippers, not her red slippers. It was really silver. It was gold and silver. So really, that was the key, was she had to learn the game, and then how to win the game was say, I want to go home. Not that the wizard could help her, JP Morgan, or the wicked witches, which are the financial planners, and the munchkins, who were just other, buy Bitcoin. And that's kind of what happens. That is the Ponzi scheme and the Bitcoin, and that's the game. That's the Ponzi scheme game. So Madoff did it differently. You were winning in the Madoff Ponzi scheme, weren't you? I gave him 100 grand. I'm getting 15% every year. I'm winning. I'm not losing, because the value of the money was dropping, but he wasn't the one doing it. All he was doing is, instead of investing where I might lose, I'm not going to invest. I'm just going to pay out. So what he's actually doing is saying, I'm going to take your money and pay this guy. And if I invest, I probably will lose, because I'm an idiot when it comes to investing. So if I'm going to lose, I'd rather not invest, and I got the money, and I'll just pay it out. It's like me right now. I could go play poker and make some money at it, but I'd rather buy gold and silver, because there's no risk to it. I'll go, let's say I can go play poker with $300, or I can go buy 10 ounces of silver. Fuck, I'm going to go buy 10 ounces of silver, because there's no risk in the portfolio. I have to win with the silver, and I have to win with the gold, or I buy 1/10 of an ounce of gold. I have to win. But if I go play poker, I could lose. I might lose. I might get aces, and somebody gets trip sevens on me, and I lose. Or somebody hits a flush on the river, and I get trips, and I get two pair, and I lose. So I'd rather take the sure thing. And I think that's what Madoff was doing. He, instead of investing where he could lose, he was just keeping the money, but he paid out. And the only reason the game ended was he stopped getting the money in to pay out. But if the money would have kept coming in, he was paying out. As far as I know, this is not a Ponzi scheme. The only fact it was a Ponzi scheme was because he wasn't gambling on the stocks. He just kept the money and paid out. He did pay out, but again, why take the risk of playing poker when I could lose, when I have no risk in silver and gold? So that's how he looked at it. I can get the money. The money keeps flowing in, and I'm getting in more than I owe out, so I'll keep the rest. Why invest in a stock that I could lose in? So why do that? And that's exactly what he did. So as far as a Ponzi scheme, I could see why he gets nervous when I don't have enough money to pay out. That's my problem. But if he would have invested in GM and Ford, he would have had the same problem. Because as interest rates rose, the GM and Ford stocks would have went down. He wouldn't have understood that. And the stocks would have went down. He wouldn't have been able to pay people off anyway. So had he been real and invested the money, which maybe he should have, I like what he did, but he shouldn't have been, by what he did, he gave out a lot more money than he would have had he played the market, because he would have got killed in 2000. When the dot-com bubble collapsed, he'd have lost everything there and people wouldn't have gotten paid off. So what would have been better? He's actually playing the stocks and losing because he's an idiot. And I don't get my payment. Wait a minute, I'm losing money. Oh, because I'm in a hedge fund that's not hedging anything and I'm losing. So I'm giving him money and he's losing it. Well, what's the difference? Instead of losing it and then not being able to pay out, he just didn't get any more in, so he couldn't pay out. Is there a difference? I don't see it. What he did was even better because he took no risk in the portfolio, and then he was able to pay out most of the time. And then he had Pickauer help him when he needed money. Pickauer would say, well, here's a loan. This will cover what you owe. So he could still do it. And then as new money came in, he then paid Pickauer off, which is fine. So again, I don't see the difference. What does the government do? We'll do T-bills. We don't have any money, so we're going to auction T-bills off. Why would anybody give you money for T-bills? You don't have any money. That's why you're doing the T-bills. Oh, well, we collect taxes. Why are you collecting taxes? Why don't you have gold? So that would have been what I would have done with Madoff. If he would have been smart enough to buy gold, and back in I guess he started in the 1970s or 80s, gold was extremely cheap. As he's doing the Ponzi scheme, he'd be buying gold, right? He'd have been fine. He could have sold his gold to pay off the people, right? But then he'd buy more gold, and then the gold would go up, and then that would have been it. Or he could have went in with the Russian mob to buy more gold, and Jamie Dimon, hey, let's get the price of gold up, stop doing derivatives. Now let's do call options, which we want a higher price, and let the gold price go up so I can pay off these people and pay you. And then when everything's normal, we can lower the price so I can buy more, which is probably exactly what's happening now with Jamie Dimon. But don't kid yourself. We know who you are. We know you're scamming everybody. We know you're criminals. But because you run the game, you don't go to jail. Again, we're dealing with such a corrupt country here. It's just ridiculous. But most people don't know. Most people don't know how corrupt this is. Most people don't understand that the dollar has no value. Most people don't understand that gold and silver are extremely undervalued. And they keep that from everybody so they can't play the game. And then and look who figured the game out. Russia and China and India have said, hey, gold's extremely cheap. Let's buy it. COMEX keeps pricing it. So some people think COMEX are idiots because they keep the price of gold cheap. But what they miss is that's done on purpose so people can buy. So China and Russia is going to keep that price down. Here, we'll give you a little bit of the gold to keep the price down, and JP Morgan takes it, and he still does his derivatives, and they lose their money, but they don't care because they're getting kickbacks from the Russia and China to cover their losses. They keep the price down until there's just everybody understands the dollar's worthless. Everybody understands gold over is where to go. All the central banks are buying it. Me and you and everybody in the class is buying the gold and silver. Like I said, I was working at my last job, and I did the same Titanic to a guy in the back room as the manager. I take him to the gold store. He pulls out a check for $100,000, and he buys $100,000 worth of gold. I'm like, you've been working in the back. How do you have $100,000 to buy on gold? Then he came. I said, but you need silver too. And then he bought another 100,000 of silver, which I just blew my mind. So this guy's all set. I'm waiting for the thank you, like Titus. Titus doesn't thank me when I give him winners. He did for a few weeks, and then he stopped thanking me. Shame on you, Titus. That's bad karma. But this guy is saying, I haven't heard from him yet, but I guess I will. But that's it. I didn't do it for the thank you. I did it to protect him. So now his goal at the time was probably 1,900 a couple years ago. It's now 2,800. So he's got his 40 some ounces. I think he got like 45 ounces was $100,000. So it's a little over 2,000, and now it's 28 going to 3,000. So it's just interesting how everything's a game that you need to figure out. So when I tell you I'm trying to feel and figure out the game, that's what I'm doing. I'm feeling the game. I'm figuring out the game within. So it's Kansas City, Philly, but I'm figuring out the game. And I'm going, well, there's Jalen Hurts sucks, but whatchamacallit, good. Who's the running back? Barkley's good. We got Mahomes and Kelsey on this side. We got Hunt. We got Spagnuolo in the defense versus Philly. So you're basically you're figuring out when Casey's got the ball, are they going to move? How's Philly defense going to stop? When Philly has the ball, KC's going to blitz a lot on Barkley. This is what's going to happen. How many points can they score? How good's the defense? Will there be a blowout? And I'm saying, no, there won't be a blowout. There's too much talent. And from what I learned, when there's a lot of talent on the field, the only thing that separates it is a real strong defense. And both teams have that, so that'll neutralize. That's why the Lions lost to Washington, and that's why Washington lost to Philly. Washington losing to Philly is the prime example. Philly with a strong defense, Washington doesn't have one, and then Philly's offense is what actually wins the game for him. And that's the difference is Philly's defense crushed Washington with the Lions without defense, and Washington without defense, you had a high-scoring game. And Detroit and Buffalo showed you how weak Buffalo's defense is. Anyway, I think that's about it. So understand the game. And how we are going to win the game is with gold. Gold wins the game. As the dollar, the picture of sand, the sand clocks, and the sand's running out, the dollar's going out, it's sinking, and you've got little time left, and then here's gold and silver just sitting there. And when this goes out, that goes up. And you don't have much time left. How much time, we never know. We don't know how much sand's in the thing. That's why when people say, when's it going to do it? We don't know, but we know it will do it because we know what they're doing to the money. Printing it it'll go to zero. We can go to the Romans as examples. We can go to Germany as an example and say, oh, yeah, it did go out. And we know what will happen. They'll come out with a new currency. If it's not backed by gold, it'll be worthless also. If it is backed by gold, that ends the game, and now we have the game's over and we won. So that's really where you're at. So keep in mind, Keynesians are playing the game to keep the the money worthless. They're the ones in power. They're the ones printing it. They want everything done. They want the government to run everything. The Austrians want the players to run everything. They want us to play the game and these determine prices and determine what we want, not the government. And that's the biggest difference. The Keynesians are idiots. They don't know what they're doing. They've been proven wrong, and they want to keep. That's what the Depression was. In 1932, who do you think was the Secretary of Treasury? It was John Maynard Keynes for FDR. We're in a depression for 15 years because of this idiot. He believes the government spends the way out of it, but not if the money is worthless. The key is the money must have value, and if you kill the value of the money, the game's over, and that's where Keynes is wrong. And then people they don't really like Keynes, but they like if they're in power and they're running the game, they want to be able to print more money because they don't understand the money is worthless, and that's the problem. So Keynesians are communists / socialists / Nazis. They're all the same. They all want to be in control. They want to print money and ruin it because they think they'll print it for themselves and they'll keep it. And the Austrians are the good guys in the game. We want the dollar to remain, and you need the only lifeboat is the gold and silver. That's the only way you can win the game, is to preserve the value of the money, and you can only do that if the money is backed by gold. And if it isn't, then you have to get rid of your money and buy gold with it. And then there's a few other assets, as I tell you, Rolexes and Mano cards and nice paintings and Picassos, who will hold their value. They're real assets, and that's why you don't want to be in Bitcoin. It's not a real asset. We don't know what it is, but people can talk themselves into it because it's worth 100,000. Okay, so if I have 100,000, are you really buying a Bitcoin? No, the only people buying it are Larry Fink with his ETF and Saylor, because he's stealing all the money. So he's buying it. That pushes the price up. But do you think there's a million people buying Bitcoin? And then it's not money because nobody uses it for money, and it's not acceptable anywhere. You can't go to Kroger's and use it. So it's not money. And then it's away from the government. So now it's just individuals sort of like doing this. This is Bitcoin. I got a Mahomes card. I'm going to sell it to Bobby. Okay, the government's not involved. It's free market. It's free trade. And off we go with it. And that's the difference. And that's kind of how Bitcoin is. It's between Joe and Ralph. And I don't even know that. They just sell it. I don't know there's actually a buyer. And then, well, wait, I got what do I do with it? Well, same thing with this. How do I get the value? This is worth $1,000. How do I get the value? Oh, I got to sell it on eBay or sell it to somebody with $1,000, and I'll take the 1,000 with the intent I'm going to go buy gold with it. That's the point of this versus that's what Bitcoin is. It's just individuals. It's not even that. It's just they're selling it. I don't even know if there's a buyer, and then they sell it and then put it in the bank, and then the banks are the bad guys who aren't going to give it to you. Sorry, we're going to bail you in. We need the money. It's our money. We're going to take it, which is what nobody's understanding that either. So they all think, great, Bitcoin's going up, but how do you get the money out of Bitcoin? And by the way, there's going to be a tax. The government knows who you are, and they're going to give you a 1099 and tax you on the Bitcoin. So this is the problem. Anyway, that's what's going on. Off to the gym. Chinese today, I think. There's no football on. Are you going to watch flag football? What the fuck is that? That's a game I don't want to go near. I like when the Pro Bowl was football, real football, and you'd see the players. Then it became the players didn't want to play, and you'd see all the backups, and they'd say, I'm a Pro Bowler. No, you're not. And now you're getting to the point where it's fucking flag football. What is that? That's like, why don't you just show a baseball game? So then you go back to a Dallas, San Francisco, the Catch game to watch that instead of the garbage of flag football. We don't want to watch. It's like electric cars. We don't want an electric car. We have no interest in an electric car. We don't mind the gas. Oh, I need gas? I'll go to a gas station. it'll never shut me off. And I know when I need new gas, the battery can die because it's too hot or too cold out, and then I can't even get in and out of my car, and I'm going to die in my car if it doesn't catch on fire. If I can find a charging station that actually works, which I can't do. So just be careful there. So anyway, off to the pool, although they're having a swim meet again this whole weekend. So all I can do is get on the bike and then go in the shallow pool and do some stretches and go in the hot tub. So, and then I'm off to Chinese. Anyway, so that's what's going on. I hope this helped. I think this is a very unique way of showing it. Thank you, Pat. The Bank of England is out of gold, which I thought they were out of, just like Fort Knox is out of gold. Canada has no gold. So I don't know where they got it unless it was ETF gold that they got. Trump, is he smart enough to go on the gold standard? He might be, but not his Secretary of Treasury. He's not. He's Soros's guy. This woman, whatever her name is, supposedly she likes gold, but will they be able to do it? It's the only way to win the game, as I've just pointed out. So anyway, that's what's going on. I hope you enjoyed it and learned, and that's the point of this. So www.teaserking.com. All right. Well, have a good night, everybody. I'll probably be on tomorrow. I just enjoy the lessons. I hope you guys, I'm trying to teach you guys. All right. Take care. Have a nice Saturday.